I feel like a little disclaimer is going to be needed here. Originally, I wasn't going to do this video. Okay, no, I was gonna do it, but it was intended to be a co-op. The person I'd originally been going to do it with ended up not getting back to me for an extended period of time, something like 5 or 6 months, to the point where the video ended up being so old that I had reservations about doing it. It then passed hands to someone else who offered to do the co-op with me, but I ended up being swamped for college, and it took a month before I had any free time to get back to them in full. Unfortunately, they chose not to wait and went ahead and did the video on their own. More unfortunately, the experience has further sullied my opinion of co-op commentaries. That is sadly why this video is so much later than the video I'll be talking about, but I have it on good authority that the person who uploaded it still thinks this, so take it as you will. Now, I'm taking the time to explain this for a few reasons. Firstly, I had discussed my points with the person who ended up going ahead on the video, so a lot of what's brought up here is going to be similar. Secondly, I wrote my script for this video the day I got it. I'm spiteful and stubborn, and wasn't just going to let this pass me up. And thirdly, I really wanted to make this joke. Ha-ha!
Hello. Hi, it's Kristen. Just wanted to talk to you tonight a little bit about, surprise, dinosaurs. I wanted to specifically talk about the aerodynamics of dinosaurs and the lies that these paleontologists have been feeding you for your entire lives in exchange for millions of dollars.
Quick question, what is the origin of that number with regards to paleontologists? The typical wage of a paleontologist is between $40,000 and $80,000, depending on the education of the individual and their position. So where does the millions of dollars factor into the equation? Are you taking the grants that they may be eligible for into consideration? Because if that's the case, then, as listed in the link provided, grants can range from around $200 to a couple thousand. The most I could find on here was a grant for 20,000 British pounds, and grants primarily go into the research itself, not exactly millions of dollars. If not that, then were you lumping the wages of paleontologists as a whole together? Because that's entirely misleading and could be applied to figuratively any group of individuals. Young Earth creationists earn millions of dollars through their videos online. Oh, most assuredly not individually. But if we gather together the paltry sums of each and every one, we could get a rather large total. Considering this woman doesn't mention private funding, I'm not going to factor it in as a possibility, not only for that reason, but also because I wouldn't even begin to know where to find a site that lists the private funding between rich people and paleontologists, assuming that's a common practice. This is why specifications, statistics, and evidence are important. And no, this is not adequate evidence to provide. If we consider your doodles to be evidence, then my avatar is clearly evidence that I'm a fucking dinosaur. You see where the logic fails here.
Pat on the back by the liberally biased media, and big high five from all the feminists out there who want to kill babies and scream at their bodies, or whatever the heck they scream.
Wow, that just came right the hell out of nowhere. What does feminism have to do with dinosaurs? What do babies have to do with dinosaurs, aside from dinosaur babies? What does killing babies have to do with the equality of the sexes? I don't get it.
So tonight I wanted to talk to you about the pterosaur. Silent P. What else are you hiding?
Your IQ? Joke?
Just kidding.
Oh, okay. That makes up for this video.
And so what the pterosaur was it was a flying dinosaur.
Wrong!
And it had big leathery wings, very wide, and it supposedly flew. So I wanted to first cite an experiment that was done in Minneapolis in 2002.
An experiment, mind you, that I can find no record of, either through searching Google or through searching scholarly documentation. Lady, if this is intended as the defining thesis argument for your video, then where is this experiment? It being so important to what you're preaching, why did you fail to provide adequate links to it as supplementary evidence?
And what this experiment was they wanted to take something that they knew would fly and they knew would glide.
And they also sought to drag their sentences out to extend the lengths of their videos. Or is that just you?
As a control in an experiment.
And there's the first problem with this experiment. The pterosaur did not glide. According to this link to the American Museum of Natural History's website, and I quote, "Like other flying animals, pterosaurs generated lift with their wings. They needed to perform the same kinds of motions as birds and bats, but their wings evolved independently, developing their own distinct aerodynamic structure. TLDR, pterosaurs had to flap their wings in order to generate lift and propulsion."
And what they decided to use was a kite. And so they took this kite and they took it to the top of a 4-story building. It was 70 feet tall. And so they let it go off of the building, and at 2 seconds, it was down to 65 feet. At 5 seconds, it was down to about 45 feet. And then at 7 seconds, it was all the way down to about 30 feet. So in the scale drawing, you can see how the kite flew on its own off the building. And what they wanted to do was test out this theory that the pterosaur was actually real and that it had leather wings.
Leather is a material made through the process of tanning animal rawhide. I think you mean leathery.
So what they did was they took a very similar substance, a very similar thing, and they put it on the kite and let it go. So they took a leather jacket out of their closet.
Oh, this shit ought to be fucking good.
And as you can see, they equipped the kite with the leather jacket. And they're still at that same 70 feet, but at 2 seconds, they're already down to the 45 feet. At 5 seconds, they're down to 12 feet, and at 7 seconds, they're all the way down to the ground at 0 feet. So in this scale drawing, you can see the whole difference of where that kite was at each stage of the experiment.
Wow, geez, you know, if I'd seen that in passing, I probably would have thought it was a dead animal falling out of the sky. Probably because that experiment simulates a dead animal falling out of the sky. Pterosaurs needed to flap their wings in order to fly. You can't just toss a leather jacket on a kite and say, "This is a pterosaur," and expect it to use the same distribution of lift and thrust in order to propel itself through the air. This experiment demands that an inanimate object display the same movement and drive of an animate animal, and then cries hoax when the inanimate object remains an inanimate object.
After 7 seconds, the kite was on the floor when it was equipped with this leathery wing. Could it have happened in real life? You tell me. Go to your closet and grab a leather jacket. Open up your window and throw it out. What do you think is going to happen?
Behold! Cars have propulsion and thus can propel themselves through the air! My logic is unfaltering and irrefutable!
Guarantee you it's not going to fly. It's not going to go gliding off into the breeze. It's going to fall like a sack of bricks.
Wonder why?
Now imagine that leather jacket is 40 feet across.
Can we also imagine that it's not dead and is actually using its wings to fly? Because that would probably be nicer to look at.
Like the pterosaur. 40-foot wingspan.
Sure, if you're talking about the Hatzegopteryx, which had a recorded wingspan of up to 40 feet, but I think you're forgetting that not all pterosaurs were so gargantuan, and that the pterosaur is not one animal, but a classification of many different animals, all of different sizes, ranging from the 10 to 25-inch wingspan of the Nemicalopteryx to the most well-known of the pterosaurs, Pteranodon, and back to the Hatzegopteryx.
With these leather-like membranes on their wings, tiny little tail that does not allow for leverage, and these bulging eyes, which have been shown to not be good for flying.
Pterosaurs had large eyes supported by a ring of bony plates. They also, like birds, had expanded optic lobes of the brain, indicating good visual perception. There's my evidence. Where's yours?
So this dinosaur supposedly flew. And this dinosaur supposedly existed and was around, and you know, it doesn't make sense. This is the type of dinosaur that makes these atheists and these paleontologists sit there and say, oh, dinosaurs are just like birds. Oh yeah, birds, they're what dinosaurs are now.
pretty sure you can be a Christian and still come to the conclusion that dinosaurs existed. Isn't that why you had to specify that you were Christians against dinosaurs? In fact, this is an article from Christianity.net that says that different Christians interpret the poetic language of the Bible differently, one example being that some people interpret the days of creation as being poetic language for much longer periods of time, thus leaving room for dinosaurs to have existed and died out before the creation of man. Hell, the Creationist Museum has dinosaurs in it. They go out of their way to explain how dinosaurs could factor into the Garden of Eden. So obviously some Christians do believe that dinosaurs existed, and they try to justify it. Am I just going crazy here?
No, it's not true. They never flew. They never existed. Dinosaurs do not equal birds.
You know, it's times like these where I feel like I could just point out that I'd love to see you cite some sources where paleontologists say that dinosaurs are birds, not, you know, that they evolved into birds over a period of millions of years and blah, blah, blah. It's just semantics. Who cares about that shit? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, paleontologists care about that shit.
You can't just say, oh, yeah, here's this piece of bone in the ground. It means that there was a dinosaur that had wings and it was made out of leather jackets and whatever else they're trying to say. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist. So I think with these experiments that have been proven and just common sense in general.
You mean that common sense that pointed out to me how flawed these experiments were from the get-go? Yes, that common sense sure is useful.
You can say that there's no way that this dinosaur, this pterosaur, ever existed the way that paleontologists are saying that they did.
And I can say that your claims are unfounded and based on faulty experiments, but at least I have evidence and references to support my claims.
And at that point, I think it's safe to say, what else are you hiding?
I got it! They're hiding your other eye!
Paleontologists. If that's not real, then what else isn't? I'm gonna guess everything.
Did she just revoke her faith?